Hi, welcome to Roy's Book Reviews. Today I wish to share my thoughts with you about the novel House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. House of Leaves is by far the strangest book I have ever read. It gets a 5 out of 5 stars rating from me on sheer audacity alone, which isn't to say that it doesn't also earn high marks because the readable parts are beautifully written. Now, describing a book as having readable parts infers that other parts of it are something altogether different. Experimental is a genre of fiction, and House of Leaves may be the only experimental novel that I've ever read. Yet I still feel confident that it's probably the best one ever written. There are plenty of different ways to feel upon completion of a great literary work. You may want to go back to page 1 and read it all over again. You may go looking for any and everything else that the author has written. You may start an online campaign demanding a sequel. Some people will go looking for books on similar topics or that touch upon similar themes, similar tropes. Or perhaps you will choose a very different type of book for your next read to prevent it from suffering in comparison to the masterpiece you just devoured. The thought that occurred to me upon reading House of Leaves is that I would love to meet the author and hang out with him for a bit. Anyone who could think up and then execute such a Frankenstein's monster of a book must surely be a fascinating conversationalist, no matter the topic, and I'd love to sit down for a pint of beer with Mark Z. Danielewski. Then again, be entirely possible that I just wouldn't be able to keep up with his stream of consciousness if he speaks anyway like he writes. House of Leaves features a layering of narrative points of view built upon other narrative points of view, and the reader is repeatedly snatched from one to another with no apparent pattern or apparent rhyme or reason. I'll describe it as best I can, but I'm not holding myself accountable for making sense here. Why should I do that as reviewer when being comprehensible was of so little concern, apparently, to the author of the book I'm reviewing? Most authors strive for readability. Their intent is to entertain, doing so by making you feel and think and connect with their characters. They're aiming for empathy. Maybe you even like some of the characters. Then there's this book, House of Leaves. Danielewski's goal with it almost seems to be daring us to continue. The reader is never comfortable. House of Leaves is, I suppose, the exact opposite of a cozy mystery. While it sure is mysterious, it's impossible to feel cozy when getting yanked all over the place. To give just one example, numerous times I found myself having to decide whether to continue reading the page I was on or jumping ahead for continuity and then jumping back to follow a different thread. No matter what I did, and I made different decisions at different times, there was no right or wrong answer. It's my first time ever using a bookmark to remember where to backtrack to in a book. Are you a fan of fiction with footnotes? I thought I was. The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz is a book that I felt used them beautifully to provide cultural backstory, particularly about older days in the Dominican Republic. In House of Leaves, footnotes comprise a whole other book within the one that you're reading. Except the book actually starts out with what later becomes the footnotes, so maybe that's the main book, and what lays above is the embedded story. I don't know, really. Decide for yourself which one is the core story. The text layout is as fascinating as the stories being told in House of Leaves. Depending on where you're at, you may have to go to a corner of the page to find the text, or turn the book sideways, or upside down, or break a code to learn what's being said by using just the first letter of each word. At one point, perhaps my favorite, I had to use my cell phone camera in selfie mode to flip the text around so I could read it. My least favorite section may have been the one with a bunch of letters X'd out, simulating content being lost to fire. So I had to fill out blanks in my mind to recognize what words were on the page. There are pages that are dense with text and pages that have just a word or two on them. There are numerous passages in French or Latin, some of it translated for you and some not. Look it up elsewhere if you care to, but then of course that would mean leaving the book entirely rather than just jumping back and forth the pages. I was not that patient to do that. I stuck with the interior content of the book and didn't also use Google. Many pages I skipped altogether, to be honest, since at a glance I could tell that they were not necessary in the building of the plots. They were just content that Mark Z. Danielewski took the time to research and present, or else to make up entirely and present. I haven't even gotten into giving a storyline synopsis yet, you may have noticed, since far more noteworthy than what House of Leaves is about is how it is presented. At one point, fairly early on, I noted on Twitter that this book was either going to end up as a did not finish or a 5-star review. I saw no way to a middle ground. Wherever, whenever you stop reading, and I did make it to the end of the appendix, which is followed by a lengthy index, nobody's reaction about this book is going to be, meh. I understand someone absolutely hating this book as much as I understand someone feeling that it is the greatest thing ever written. In between has no place here. All right, I'm going to try to summarize it now. In House of Leaves, there is a man named Will Davidson, who is married to a woman named Karen, and they have 2 young kids, a son and a daughter. Davidson is a Pulitzer Prize-winning photojournalist, expert at wielding a still camera as well as a video camera. They own a house in Virginia, recently moved into, and one day Davidson notices something odd about its dimensions. The interior is a smidgen wider than the exterior. Like Alice in Wonderland, it isn't long before he finds himself going down the rabbit hole. But it's a very different sort of rabbit hole than the one Lewis Carroll gifted us with. There are no quirky characters found within, no childlike wonder. Davidson enters a dark space that wasn't there before, but now there it is. He brings others along on his expedition, including his twin brother. What does he find? Darkness. Absence of light, but impossible continuation of space. Down hallways, through doorways, and then down a very long spiral staircase that eventually leads to more of the same. Is it infinity? Is it hell? Is there a difference? Davidson makes a film about his multiple explorations within the impossible inner dimensions of the house. A man named Zampano studies the film and everything about what happened, and apparently goes insane in the process. Another man reads what Zampano left behind and loses his mind and will to resume regular life as well. We, the readers of House of Leaves, read about what Johnny Truant experiences by reading what Zampano learned by studying up on Davidson. Does that make us go crazy? Yeah, probably a little bit. Perhaps not as crazy as Johnny's mother, who went insane and tried to kill him as a child. The letters she wrote to him from a mental institution showing her deteriorating state of mind bring House of Leaves to a close. Why does the book end this way? Why not? Best as I can tell, Danielewski wanted to write a novel about the experience of going insane. And the only way for us to authentically understand is by being driven insane ourselves. Was Danielewski successful in his quest? Abso-friggin-lutely. Do I recommend this book to other people? Yes, but only those bold and literary tastes need apply. There are all kinds of things that trigger warnings are given for to let someone know that they're about what they're about to venture into, if they so dare. Maybe it's sexual content, maybe violence, maybe incest or pedophilia or some other horror. With House of Leaves, the trigger warning for anyone who finds my review is go in knowing that reading this book can drive you nuts. Now you know, so it's up to you whether you care to take that trip. I end this review with the words, bravo, Mr. Danielewski, bravo. I've never read anything like this before. It's entirely possible I will never read anything like this again because I don't know if anyone else could write a book like this, and I don't know if the author is capable of doing it twice. Quite the achievement. Until next time, this is Roy, wishing you happy reading.